Well, okay, welcome to week 13. Can you believe it? This is the week that your research papers actually due. It's due for peer review, and I expect to see there, I'm not going to be reading them in detail, you won't get any comments back from me, you're going to be looking, I expect to see there 5 full pages, right, plus your works cited list. You know, we have to do this now, okay, there's no choice. I'll be working, of course, on grading your outlines and your thesis statements this week, but you should be going ahead and write your paper. The purpose of the outline was not so much for me to review it, but for you to actually do it, okay? And the purpose of the thesis statement was for you to work on that. But I'll get that done shortly, but you can be writing your paper. Now, one way you could start writing your paper is this is a 5-page paper plus the works cited list, okay? And in a 5-page paper, you have the introduction and the conclusion. Those are each a paragraph, okay? So that leaves you 13 more paragraphs that you have to write. You do not have to start the paper by writing the introduction. You know, you've got your outline, you know what's in your head, you know you've been thinking about this topic. What you really need is you need to make 13 points about this topic, right? It doesn't have to be 13 separate points, but 13 connected points, right? Some can kind of be duplicated if you want, but follow your outline. But basically what I'm saying is you need 13 paragraphs to complete a 5-page paper, plus your introduction, plus your conclusion. All right, so if you can think of 13 things you want to say, you're in good shape. Now that said, the first sentence of every paragraph is that one thing you want to say. It's that point you want to make about your topic, all right? Then the rest of the paragraph supports that point. So please write in paragraphs, please write with topic sentences. Start your paragraphs with a point you want to make. Now, if you want to duplicate that point in the next paragraph, that's fine. Just say, on the other hand, or also, or another example, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But think in terms of paragraphs, think in terms of topic sentences. Then in each paragraph, make sure you use your research, you use your support to prove and illustrate that point that you've just made. That's how you develop this whole paper. Then when the paper is done, the conclusion kind of automatically comes. You've been writing away. You say, oh, wow, here's my conclusion. I'm ready to conclude. Just conclude. Then you can write your introduction out of that. You've already got a rough thesis statement in mind. You already know where the paper was going. Then you look at what you wrote and say, okay, how do I make sure that my introduction and my conclusion match each other? Good paper starts and ends in the same place. All right. So purpose of peer review is to not just to critique each other's papers, but it gives you a chance to look at another student's paper. And if you see some really good writing there, you recognize good writing, okay? Even if you're not a totally competent writer, you know good writing when you see it. So you can look at another student's paper and say, oh, wow, that person's doing a really good job. They're using plenty of quotes in every paragraph. They've got lots of supports in every paragraph. I can recognize the topic sentences. Cool. How can I do the same thing in my paper? Now, one way you can do this, okay, is you can read the sample paper in the textbook. If you'll look on page 468 of your textbook, you'll see a fairly well-written sample paper. You know, if you wrote that paper, I'd give you an A on that paper. Okay, so make sure you read the sample paper in the textbook. It's also there in your learning module. Then another thing you should do is you should look at the syllabus one last time. You should start with page 6 of the syllabus, and the criteria for getting an A on this paper, for exactly how I'm going to be looking at it, for exactly how I'm assessing it, for exactly what my expectations are listed very clearly in the syllabus. Start with page 6 of the syllabus, and all the criteria are listed in detail. If you'll read that, you'll actually learn something. Okay, so please go back to your syllabus and look at page 6 again. Or start with page 6. I've already talked about paragraphs. I've already mentioned just go ahead and write the paper, then come back and write the introduction. Write the paper, just start with first body paragraph, first thing you want to say, next body paragraph, second thing you want to say, etc., until you get to the end. Say, oh, here's my conclusion. Basically summarize, point out what you proved, then come back and write your introduction based off your conclusion, so the two sort of reflect each other. It's like looking in a mirror. Hold your conclusion up to the mirror, sort of reverse it. That's your introduction. All right. If you have questions throughout the week, of course, use your email. But this week, by Sunday night, your peer review is due. I'll be looking for that and grading that you did the peer review, okay, that you got it in there on time and that you had your 5 full pages. Do not turn in a piece of CRAP to your students, and by all means, don't do that to me. You've had plenty of time to work on this. You must get the work done. We're running out of time, okay? Then I need some time. Your paper is due to me on April 25th. It's due peer review on April 18th. You must meet that deadline. Then it's due to me on April 25th, and then I have only a few days to turn it around and give you some help to revise it so you can get a better grade, so I can actually teach you something in additional from this process. Please make sure you're looking at the learning modules. every now and then some student says, well, you didn't explain that very well. Well, that's not true. If you look at the learning modules, the material's in there, okay? Those students who have 35, 40, 50 hours in the class, you're getting A's already. Those students have 25 and under, and there's a lot of you, unfortunately, aren't doing so well. And that's not because I'm not explaining it well. That's because you're not reading the material that I provided for you. So I'm not trying to scold you. I'm just saying we're at the end of the class. We're running out of time. If you expect to get a good grade in the class, you have to knuckle down and do the work now. Okay? So as usual, if you have questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Please do that, and have a great week. It's lovely to see spring here. We should all feel good, but you've got to do the writing. Get it in on time for peer review. Take a good look at what your peers have written. Say to yourself, hey, how could I model this? Make my paper better. Make sure you've read the sample paper I've provided, and then turn in to me on April 25th a complete draft. 5 full pages, not 1 sentence less, plus your works cited. Hey, bye now.